Hi, everyone. Coach Sullivan here again with MJS Coaching Football. To my subscribers, I thank you. And to those who haven't yet, I really hope you do. Excuse me. I just completed my 38th year coaching football. And during that time, I was a defensive coordinator. But over the 38 years, I've also been an offensive coordinator, special teams coordinator, a longtime head coach. All of this at both the collegiate and high school levels. What I'd like to talk to you about here today in this presentation is our 3-4, what we call offset versus 10 Detroit, which is 2x2, or 10 Toledo, which is 3x1. It's a six-man box out of our base package. So I'm going to explain all of that over here under key terms. All right, but the name of the front, offset, okay, that's the key. We're going to set the front to the offset. That doesn't necessarily always dictate the liz or rip, but it certainly sets the front. Okay, and that's even the case with 3x1. The offset halfback will set the front, but will have no effect necessarily on the liz or rip. Okay, so all these things will be brought in. Before I get into one term over here, in no way, shape, or form am I getting into any coverage. I'm not getting into, excuse me, any techniques. I'm going to talk about run support. I will talk about gap responsibility. Most importantly, I'll talk about adjusting the front for if the halfback switches sides, because remember, offset halfback sets the front, but also wide receiver MAC motion, how we adjust to that. Okay, I'll also bring in versus 2x2 Detroit. Excuse me, if the ball's on the hash is different than ball in the middle of the field, whereas Toledo 3x1, it doesn't matter where the ball is. Okay, so now I'm going to get to the key terms over here. All right, so non-subscribers, here's my first of two. Push that button, you have access to everything. Okay, when we're in our base plan, which we're always in unless I go like that. So there, number two, non-subscribers, you have to push the button. The rest of it, if it doesn't make sense, if you push the button, you have access to everything and it will make sense. Okay? Because we're in our base, that means we're going to have two high safeties, two high safety structure. However, because we're going to be +1 in the box, as you see, six-man box, with two high safeties, that means we're going to have minimum on the perimeter. Typically, in our base, we're two high safeties. We're +1 on the perimeter with minimum box numbers. This, we're flipping it. Okay? We get a +1 on the box with minimum on the perimeter. So the second one, number two here, our linebacker alignment. Okay, our backer goes to the liz or rip. That's big. Okay? The mic is a split, which means he's in the box in the middle, and he's going to go a split to the offset halfback, as we'll see. The dime and the rover are two outside linebackers because it's even 10 personnel. They scream even because then they stay left and right. Okay. Number three is huge, huge. Atlantic and Pacific. We only use Atlantic and Pacific when we have a 4-eye in our front. Okay, so Atlantic and Pacific we will build into you in the diagram portion of the presentation today. But when we make a call, Atlantic or Pacific, the 4-eye is set on that side, as you'll see, and it bumps the front away. Huge. And again, the only time we ever use these two, Atlantic and Pacific, is when we have a 4-eye. Number four is big. This is how we're going to adjust. So we call lasso, which means the linebackers only. Secondary is not involved. Okay? So that is specifically for that wide receiver MAC. Motion across. You're welcome, non-subscribers. And when the halfback switches sides. Okay, I'm going to give you both scenarios. Okay, so that's how we adjust. Number five, the run support. thing of beauty, it's the same. We're not reteaching, reinventing the wheel here and creating a whole new run support system because we're minimum on the perimeter. Okay, so we'll show you how the same run support applies here. You just follow the same rules. Okay, thing of beauty. Number 6 is what we call a China tag. So we usually use a signboard and make all the calls, and whoever's responsible for the signboards in the game that day, the players know, okay, if we get Toledo 3-by-1, the outside linebacker is going to be in our China tag, which simply means he does the opposite of what he usually does. That's what it means. Do the opposite. Okay? So it affects only the dime and the free safety, and we'll show that to you when we get down here in the 3-by-1 Toledo. Right now it's drawn up in the regular. When we do a China tag, we'll show you how it impacts the dime and the free. Easy thing to do. Number 7, I've mentioned numerous times, the stack front versus 10 personnel allows us to have +1 in the box without blitzing, without playing with the safety structure. Okay? Listen, you can't be +1 in the box, +1 in the perimeter, and, +1 in the perimeter and have 2 high safeties. You can't have everything. Okay? So we prefer to have +1 in the box with 2 high safeties, because I'll show you, without getting into coverages or anything else, I'll show you how we can take a box defender and apply him to the perimeter. All righty? Number 8 here, whenever it's 3-by-1, an automatic is check pit. I'll just give you that. All right, I'm not going to give you anything else, but check pit allows us to compensate versus 3-by-1 for the minimum numbers on the perimeter. Okay, thing of beauty. And that's built in. We have check pit all the time, even when we're not in stack, offset, or stack versus 10 formations. Okay. And then finally, number 9 is big pistol. If the back is not offset or starts an offset and then switches to pistol, we check stack. Okay, we check stack. So then you can have the access to the presentation stack. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these key terms and I'm going to apply them over here. All right, so both in the top and the bottom, the ball is in the middle of the field. All right, up top, you got even. On the bottom, you got even because it's 10. The kids are screaming it. Right, up top is the Detroit, which is 2-by-2. On the bottom is Toledo, which is 3-by-1. Right, again, non-subscribers. So, starting up top, versus 2-by-2, Detroit. Liz or Rip goes to the offset halfback. So if it's west, which is left, it's going to be Liz. Okay? Before I go any further, when the ball's on the hash, it automatically goes to big field still. Okay, so that little tweak is middle of the field, okay, for the offset front. Remember, offset front's based on the offset back. The Liz or Rip goes to the offset halfback. All right? So, because it's west, you're going to get Pacific. See, Pacific, West Coast, as you look at a map, it's on the left, the Pacific Ocean. So the Pacific calls made means the 4-eye is on the left. And now the front bumps away, so you've got a 4-eye, a 1-shade, and a 5-shade. Okay, 4-eye, 1-shade, and a 5-shade. Because it's Liz, backer is on the left, right, to the Liz or Rip. So let me just talk about this. Okay, the offensive tackle's toes. The backer aligns his inside toe on the tackle's outside toe. That puts him in what we call a C stack. That is the C gap, right? He is 51 static. So you got 1, 3, 5. That is his gap. Static. He reads the mesh. So again, non-subscribers, right? So it's 51. It's Orbis. 2's detached, right? Run support, the same. 2's detached, so it's Orbit over here. 2's detached. He's 1x12 Ike. Stack. See, everything's the same. Thing of beauty. So that takes care of that. Here is the Mike linebacker. So now, right, if he is stacked over the ball, his toes are even. He isn't, though, right? He is A-split on the center, which means now he's on the left. His up foot, inside foot is the right foot. So that inside right toe is on the center's near toe. See, he's A-split to the side of the halfback. But he's back to a staggered stance. Nice. Now, here's the key. Okay, remember all I said I was going to talk about was how the regular run support stayed the same and gap responsibility, right? 31 technique. 1, 3, 5. Okay, play goes this way. The mic is the 3 gap or the B gap, all right, opposite the halfback. There it is. Boom, done. He's the static reading the mesh, not him. So if you get that full zone, he's gone to the B gap now. Beautiful. Okay? So now here is the offset, right? And here is where you are minimum numbers on the perimeter. You're normal over here in the sense of, right, we got +1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. +1. We're +1 in the box because the outside linebacker, remember, they stay left and right, Diamond Rover, gets 2x4 off the tackle. That makes him, to the offense, he's in the box. Okay, he's in the box. But see, since 2's removed, run support's the same, it stays orbit. Oh, so you got +1 in the box. And the safety's still 1x12 Ike stack on number 2, and the corners are both 1x6. Everything's the same. But we're minimum out here, right? Minimum on the perimeter. But we can live with it because he's a part of the perimeter. As 51 orbit, he's setting the force right there. He's setting the force, okay? We should be solid. So everybody got this, I hope? Pretty secure. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the box. The 4i is very difficult to block. That's still his pressure key. That's still his visual key, except now it's extremely difficult, if not impossible, for the tackle to cut off a 4i. So you got a real hard bender there already in B to A. Huge. Okay, and this A gap is secured by alignment, so we feel really good about this. That is a lot there. Those 4 are a lot for those 3. Okay? So now, right, I talked about it. Halfback switches sides. I'll go over that first. So let's just say, as an example, halfback were to switch. It's real easy. The mic says, Jack East, Atlantic. And then also now going to check, the safeties are going to say check, rip. Remember, whenever there's a saying change, we say check. Check means change. So check from Liz to rip, right? So now he's going to move there. He has to bump out. He now moves to 2x4. See how messy this gets? I apologize. And the rover lassos over, right? The backer, my bad. Lassos over so he gets to the new rip. And that's all it takes. See? Lasso. Just the linebackers. Just the backers. Okay? And so rather than get even messier, I'll show you how, since we already know how we change the front based on the halfback changing sides, I'll deal with the wide receiver Mac motion down here. Okay? Everybody good? So look, we've done all of this already. right? Boom, boom. I haven't done China tag yet. That's coming down here. Boom. And I'm going to get you the check pit down here as well. Okay? So now you come down, the offense comes out in 3 receivers, right? So it's still 10, it's still 3 by 1, right? So the Liz or rip goes to the 3 receivers. That's easy. But the front is still set based upon the back. So East equals Atlantic. I did this on purpose for you. Okay, East equals Atlantic, except here, right? Here's also the difference so you can see it. The rules stay the same. Backer to the Liz or rip. It's a Liz. So there's the backer. The Mike, A split to the halfback. That stays consistent. Outside linebackers stay left and right. See, it stays consistent. So now East equals Atlantic. Now the rover is putting his inside up toe on the tackle's outside toe, and he's in the C split. So now he's the 51 static. See how this works? Okay, now there's a difference here, and I'm going to get to it in a second. As far as the 31 and the 10, right? Up here, it was no 10. 31, 2 51s. Now we got a 51, 10, 31. Why is that the case? I'll get to that. But again, go back to run support, the same. No 2 removed, it's sky and less, so it's sky support over there. 2 is removed, so it's orbit over here, right? Everything stays the same. Before I get to anything else over here, since I'm on the topic of the perimeter, right? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Minimum on the perimeter in terms of numbers. So to compensate for that, the outside linebacker in our regular way to play it, apex is 2 and 3, which means splits the difference, still has the up toe on the heels of the defensive end. Everything's the same. So now the safety aligns 1 by 12 Ike on number 3 instead of number 2. Still stacked, still everything. It's all good. Right? So remember, we're going to get to the China tag. Now the safeties will scream, check, pit. And I'm not going to talk coverage except to say this. To get +1 over here and here in coverage, this is why we want 2 high safeties. If 2 and 3 go vertical, 1, 2, and 3, the whip, the opposite safety's poaching number 3. That's check pit. So that's how we bring him over. Now you got 4 over 3. And if 3 doesn't go vertical, we got 2 over 1. So see, we do kind of get the best of everything because of check pit. +1, +1, +1. 2 safeties. Woo! So yeah, I'm a big fan of offset when we're going to see an offset versus Toledo. Huge fan. All right. So now let me talk to you about this one here, right? China tag and then wide receiver Mac motion. So if we signal this, we want to be in China. What the effect is as follows. Now, in this case, the dime aligns outside shaded 2, still toes on the heels of the DN, and the free safety then moves up to 1 by 8 Ike on number 3. Still orbit, still stacked, still check pit. Everything's still the same. Why we would do this? We're getting hurt on the perimeter because of the minimum numbers. 3 bubble, 3 screen, tunnel screens, any of those things. This makes us a little bit more secure. Okay, versus that's why we would use the China tag. All right. So now I'm going to go back to the regular, excuse me. And I'm going to show you how we adjust to the wide receiver Mac motion. Okay. So we get back to apex. He gets back to 1 by 12. So either 2 or 3 goes in motion. Either one doesn't matter. Okay. First of all, they make the usual rabbit call. That's the alert that somebody's moving. So, all right, we got a guy on the move, rabbit on the move. So they make the rabbit call. So as soon as he crosses over it now, right, remember, middle of the field, Liz or Rip, Detroit, to the halfback. So the front's not going to be affected, but this is what's going to happen, right? So now it's going to check Rip. So that pulls him out, pulls him over, right? And now that puts him at the 2x4. And play football. That's all there is to it. That's the lasso, linebackers only. Safeties don't have to get involved in the rope. Non-subscribers. Okay, so that's how we do it. So now I want to get back to the last thing I'd like to talk about is why is this 10 and 31, right? You had 51, 31, 51. Up here you got 51, 10, 31. Why is that? All right, so let me kind of get back to things here a little bit. So there's no more motion. Here we go. So the reason we have a 51, 10, 31 in this scenario is because versus Toledo 3x1, excuse me, sorry. Whether it's halfback away from the three receivers or halfback two, we're going to have the weak side, one receiver side, outside linebacker is in the box. He is saying, I'm here. So that means he does not have to get the B gap anymore. That makes him a 10 defender. See what I'm saying? Okay. So whenever it's 3x1, whether the halfback is away from the three receivers or to him, the outside linebacker on the side of the one receiver is saying, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, which tells him he's an A-gap dude, right? So now he's B-split on the tackle, which means his outside toes on the inside toe. He's got that 3 gap. As I already talked about his alignment, he's static, reading because it's sky. He's fitting in there, which means this linebacker has a 10 technique. He's got the A gap he's lined up in. Unless this thing gets washed, meaning the nose and the back threatens the opposite A gap, there's a potential for that, but he plays the gap he's lined up in. It's kind of nice, right? He's got that gap, 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 he's got that gap. So all 6 gaps are covered right now. Boom, by the people that are lined up in them. Thing of beauty. And if the back were to it, the front bumps with it, and it's the exact same. The exact same. So that is the offset front versus 10 personnel, both 2x2 as well as 3x1, right? Thing of beauty. So as I said to my subscribers, I thank you. Non-subscribers, I really hope I've teased you into pushing the button. To everyone, please, questions, reach out to me at coachmjsullivan@gmail.com. It's starting to happen more. I'm learning football. I'm helping people on the other side of the screen, and that's the whole point of doing this. So for that, I love to really thank YouTube for giving us this platform.